Oh, yes. This is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. And today's show, sponsored by Cheshire Impact, on a mission to help people maximize their use of Pardot and Salesforce. CheshireImpact.com. Bam. Hey, everyone. Before we get started with the show, I'm excited to announce two things. First is that my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed, is now live on Amazon. So go get it. The second thing is we have a new sponsor, Qualified.com. I'm going to tell you about them in the next couple seconds here, and also how you can get a free copy of my book thanks to them. So who are these people? Well, Qualified is the #1 live chat and chatbot platform for Salesforce and Pardot. Sales reps can have real-time, personalized conversations with who? Your hottest website visitors. So I want you to know, I don't just partner with anyone. I genuinely love these guys. And the platform, we use it at my company. Our sales team loves it. We've closed a lot of deals based on it, had a lot of great conversations with prospects too. So, a lot of marketing these days is what? Hurry up and wait, right? Fill out this form. And then if we pass you over to sales, maybe you'll swap 6 emails with them to find a good time to talk. But what if a prospect is doing research right now and they would chat now? Why not give them the opportunity? So the best part is your company actually decides what leads are worth a live chat. There's a lot of noise out there. You don't want to talk to everyone. So Qualified actually connects to Salesforce and Pardot, and it's able to pull in lead and contact information so you can specifically know if you're talking to a VIP, a VP, a decision maker. It's really kind of like magic. Now, if you don't know who someone is, well, what happens then, Casey? Well, that's when the bots come in handy. Chatbots can then ask questions to further qualify a lead, find out if maybe this is someone you do want to talk to. And they can book meetings while your sales team is out. And they can wake up the next morning with a bunch of meetings on their calendar. Now, here's the promo. If you are a company that wants to give your sales team this ability, right, to be able to talk to decision makers right when they're on your website, do this. Go to qualified.com and start a chat, right? They use their own tool, of course. Start a chat. Tell them that Casey sent you. If you have Salesforce Pardot, when you schedule and then do a demo, they will send you a free copy of my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed. Not bad, right? Well, it's only while supplies last. So hop on this thing today. And that's it for sponsors. Let's get to the show. Boom. There it is. Okay, cool. We hit record and then things catch on fire. I'm excited to introduce the guest today. He is a B2B. He is a marketing leader, revenue operations leader, growth marketing leader. He's just leading things like all across the board. We're going to talk a lot about optimizing revenue models. He spent a lot of time doing this, perfecting the idea of how do you get those early stage companies growing fast and understanding how to get something. And he's actually turned it into a formula. Also the host of the State of Demand Gen podcast. He's actually won an award called the Innovator of the Year. What? CEO at Refine Labs, Chris Walker. Welcome to the show.
What's up, Casey? Awesome to be here.
Yeah, man. Dude, it's early. We've got our coffee. We are ready to crank this thing. So
cheers.
The sun is the sun is shining. Let's do this, man. Our marketing leadership series. And I want to do this. I'm going to pass you this thing. This is going to help you with this next part here. It's heavy though. 1 second. Okay. Here you go. This is Thor's hammer. You got it? There's the handle. You got it? Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Take Thor's hammer for me and smash some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception, and just set the record straight once and for all.
You don't need more leads. You need the right leads.
Boom. It's not about quantity. It's just the right leads. I mean, easier said than done. Why are people just doing it the opposite, honestly, right? Is that what we're doing? We're just going after quantity?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's driven by a lot of different factors. But when it comes down to it, like we'll go into companies that are generating, let's just pretend 3,000 MQLs a month. And then those are getting passed to their inbound SDR team, and the SDR team's following up. And then 3 months into working with them, their quote unquote MQLs are down to 100, but they're driving more qualified pipeline and more revenue because they're attracting the right people that are ready to buy and are super educated.
That sounds like a good idea because if you're getting less leads, you're probably spending less money getting those bad leads. So you just optimize the whole thing. Um, is it easier said than done? How do you
Surely,
make that transition? You know?
surely easier said than done. However, it's driven. I think what starts at culture, and
Oh,
companies will build the infrastructure around the company to support the sales team. And typically, companies that are farther along right now, or even early stage for that matter, have sales teams that I would consider overweight. There's too many sales reps and not enough demand to support all those sales reps. So the marketing team gets forced into a quantity game in order to keep the sales team busy, whether or not that actually drives revenue or productivity from those people.
yeah. Overweight sales teams. Tell me about that. Like, how do you know when there's just too many people on a sales team?
I think it's a pretty deep analysis, but I think what it comes down to is like our from a customer acquisition cost standpoint, like what is your CAC, and then if you break that into different channels, like how is that broken down between marketing source and sales sourced? And then if you start to look at that, typically what we'll find is that the customer acquisition cost from marketing source leads in a company that's running the right model, I would say, is somewhere between 1.5 and 3x less than a pure outbound generated lead or sale. And when you're seeing that type of customer acquisition cost difference, um, for whatever reason, companies continue to try and scale their sales team, and I've over time learned that it would be much more efficient to scale the marketing engine and continue to tighten that up and drive quality leads. And therefore, you wouldn't need so many sales reps to continue to drive your revenue growth, because all the sales reps are being more productive because they're being fed high quality leads that close faster and at a high rate.
Yeah. Yeah. Being more productive, right? I mean, it's all about maximizing human time.
Yeah, and when it comes down to it, because companies have so much capital and money tied up in their overweight sales team, they don't have those resources to invest in fixing their demand gen engine, but then even further downstream to continue to invest in product to build a competitive advantage, to continue to invest in success appropriately to drive customer happiness and overall retention, and then the overall infrastructure of the business that needs to run. And so, because companies have so much money in the sales team, it kind of like sucks the ability to build the rest of the business out.
Yeah. As you're describing that, I was just thinking, okay, I mean, how much is like one salesperson a month? You know, it could range obviously depending on industry, but let's say it's like fully loaded
10 to
8K maybe,
20K.
or
Yeah.
what did you say, 8 or you said 7 or
10 to 20K
a month?
a month, fully loaded, 120K a year,
Yeah, 120. Yeah,
25.
okay.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. It sounds like you've done your math. Clearly I need to get a calculator.
I've
Okay,
gone
right.
through this a lot.
Right. So okay. So you said like 10K, 10 to 20K.
Yeah. I think 120 to 240, depending on industry and
Right.
performance, fully loaded is the right amount. Yeah. For an
Okay,
AE,
see that's different. I
SDR
was
is a bit
thinking like
lower.
5 at
Yeah.
one point, but you're right. 10K in my mind, I'm taking your question and saying, what could marketing do with 10K in that month to to drive more leads than maybe one rep? Like if they've got an overloaded sales team, let's say instead of that one rep, you what would you do? And if marketing has a good answer for that, there's probably something valid there. But I think maybe sometimes marketing doesn't have an answer for that. They haven't worked with you. They haven't figured this thing out. And so companies are like, well, we can at least add another salesperson there to try to, farm up some leads or dig them out
Yeah,
of the dirt.
yeah. I mean, it gets further exacerbated when you have 100 sales reps in a $30 million company, and then it starts to like, what is that? Ten
Yeah.
thousand times 100 people. You're spending $1 million a month on your sales team without travel expenses or tools or
Shit.
or infrastructure management infrastructure and all these different things. And so like that's when it starts to get really interesting for us, because then like how could you deploy that $1 million a month in a different way? And what I found over time is that companies historically, like if you look back at 1995, for instance, the way a B2B company would grow is by having an average performance per rep, and then continuing to scale the reps, because that is how you went to market. There was no digital targeting. Buyers were not looking online for products. The only ways people would discover products is by having a friend or colleague tell them about it, by
Hmm.
walking a trade show floor and discovering it at the industry annual conference, or by having a sales rep either show up at their door or cold call them. Those were the ways to discover a product in 1995 for a buyer.
Yeah.
However, that's not how it is today. So companies are still thinking about it in that idea. Okay, so we've had this much net new revenue last year on 10 reps. So all we have to do is just scale to 20 reps and then we'll have double the revenue. And unfortunately, that's not how it works anymore. And so because buyers have changed, you actually need to create the demand on the marketing side, which then sales can capture. Sales can create demand. Like that is not arguable. It just doesn't scale linearly.
Interesting. Couple points there. When you brought up 1995, it reminded me, I think there was a Facebook post recently where someone said, we right now in 2020, we are as close to 2050 as we are to 1990. Like, which is wild to think about for some of the older people,
Mm-hmm.
some of the GI Joe generation. Wow, right? Think of it that way, and then to your point, why are we still trying to sell like none of us have iPhones? Like we all have Palm Pilots. It's not like that anymore. It's totally
Yeah.
different.
I mean, precisely. And then to really get granular on this, if you start to break it down to like the quality of a conversation. So let's just pretend for conversation that you have a conversation that happens at a trade show booth. So someone shows up at your trade show booth. You spent $50,000 all in on travel, booth expenses, planning, all those different things. So $50,000 on the booth. You drive 100 people to have conversations with you there. It's $500 per conversation.
Yeah.
And then whatever happens in that conversation. However, what if you could just spend $1 and get that person to watch a video that has the exact same content that's discussed in the trade show booth? And instead of spending $1,000 to hit that one person that has to be in that location, has to stumble upon your trade show booth and you get lucky, versus you being able to give it to them online in a way that they want for 0.1% of the cost. And
Yeah.
so that's the way that I think about it. It's like, if you break it down to like the actual touch points, you can just do it in a such more effective manner, which then educates people and then gets them ready for when either you go outbound. So when we do demand gen well, we find it augments outbound efforts. People are
Yep.
more likely and more receptive to outbound, but more so the people that you're driving inbound are 80% done their buying process. And then the salesperson's job is just to help that person buy something, not convince them to buy.
Right.
And it's a much better place to be as a sales rep, to just help someone buy what they already want versus having to try and convince them that your thing is the right thing. And so I think about it from like a sales rep's perspective, a buyer's perspective, a CEO's perspective. It just feels very obvious to me.
If you gave someone the opportunity to either spend $500 or spend $1, and I know it's just an example, but like, hello, you're right. I mean, maybe that video took some, time, some effort, or maybe that cost you like what, $5,000 or something. But then it's still like, okay, spend $1.25 or $2 to get that one person versus all the time and effort to get the $500 conversation.
Yeah. And then how many buyers are in your market? Let's just pretend that there are 50,000 people that could reasonably buy or influence the purchase of your product, and only 100 show up at the trade show booth.
Yeah.
So you've barely even touched your addressable market with that touch execution point. However, you make the $5,000 video and then you distribute it effectively, and you can hit 3, 4, 5, 10% of those people fully consuming the video. And then you do that over and over again. And as you do it over and over, one, you get better at actually communicating. Two, you have multiple touch points. And so I have some data that I think is interesting for people to think about that are doing social or online marketing that is not intent based. So not Google AdWords, I need your software, and then I click on it, but actual like marketing, not direct response. Is that when people come inbound to talk to me, the CMO of the $35 million company comes inbound to me, I ask her, how many of my videos did you see on LinkedIn before you were comfortable reaching out. And the average number is somewhere between 30 and 90 for people. And that's a sample size of 15 or 20 VP marketing CMOs. And so, like, if you think about that from your buyer's perspective, the idea that you run one cold targeted ad on Facebook and all of a sudden someone's
Right.
magically ready to buy is just not aligned with how people actually buy things. And so
30 to
you need
90 of your
video.
videos.
Yes.
I know we're connected on LinkedIn. So are they frequently coming out, or how?
I publish a video or a post at least once a day, and
Wow.
because of that insight of that they need to watch 30 to 90, I'm ready to test what if I post 3 a day, does it accelerate that process?
Yeah. Has it? Has it?
We've been testing on and off. It's actually quite difficult to post 3 times a day. The copy is actually the most time consuming part. So being able to write meaningful copy alongside the video is really what takes a lot of time. It takes 30 minutes to an hour to write a thoughtful post that resonates with people. And so we're hovering at the 1.5 to 2 on average per day, and
Okay.
continue to just work at it. But it's it's hard to have every post come out with the exact same quality while also
Yeah.
scaling quantity. And so that's a challenge that we work with companies on too.
Right. Because you could easily say, oh, I heard on a podcast this guy named Chris said I need to post a bunch of stuff on LinkedIn, and then people start flooding it, not realizing the actual point of the whole thing is that those 30 to 90 videos, they may have actually watched one, or they may have seen a bunch scroll by, but they actually watched maybe like 5 of them randomly in that pack, and they were all valuable. They
Yeah,
actually really helped.
the impact of the content matters more than the impression.
Nice. Nice. As in the number of views impression, or
Yeah, I mean, if someone
yeah.
sees my post, like there's some value to it, whatever intangible value to someone just seeing me on LinkedIn with a post that had 4,000 likes or
Yeah.
whatever about demand generation.
Right.
However, the difference is if they actually consume the 4 minute video, and then the difference in the impact that it leaves versus the consumption of the 4 minute video versus the impression of my name is astronomical.
Yeah.
And so companies need to think about that too. They're running banner advertisements to show their logo, which has an intangible value, depending on where it's located and how many people actually see it and different things like that. But the real value happens when they see your logo, click on the piece of content, read your blog about a statistic about how CFOs are struggling with this, and they're a CFO and they're also struggling with this. And you show them that there are better ways to do whatever they're struggling with. And
Yeah.
that over time, you do 10 of those studies, 6 different feature announcements of different things. Um, a couple case studies of successful companies that did that, partners and integrations that you've done and announced those. And over time, you can, if you do it effectively, you can completely change the perception of a market if the product actually does what you say it does. And so a real caveat to this is like, there's no sense in doing demand generation if you don't have a product that brings value and has to a defined set of people. So you got to have the product first. And then most companies will go sales heavy. I think that it should be marketing heavy and then sales to support the growth that's created on the marketing side.
Oh yeah, totally makes sense on that one. Love the point around no sense in doing demand gen if the product's not there, if the service is not there. And I mean, I've always told marketers, even though it's wild and crazy, like if you don't like your product, if you don't like your customer, then leave, go somewhere
Yeah.
else, go somewhere where like your thing actually makes a difference so that you can make a difference getting people onto it, as opposed to just
Hmm.
signing people up for the next sham wow commercial. Like make a difference with that thing. Right.
For sure. I mean, goes
Yeah.
for, I mean, anyone that is putting in a significant amount of effort on anything must have some investment in the outcome of whatever they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Right. And so whether you're a seller, a marketer, the CEO, the janitor, like you have to have an attachment to so that you're excited to come into work every day. And if you're not, if you don't feel the impact other than making your money, and a lot of people are driven by money, and that's fine. But if you don't feel that impact, maybe you should find a place where you can find that because you're going to have a lot more happiness and drive to accomplish whatever you're trying to do.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Um, yeah, money's cool, But when you're staying at home and like, there's nothing better. I mean, you can't join the Peace Corps, or you could, but if the next best thing might be actually working in a company where you care about the people you're trying to help and the customers and all that. Question for you: the videos on LinkedIn. Any tips? Like someone who's like, okay, I want to start doing these a la Chris Walker style. Um, you know, other than like have a great hairdo at the start and solid mic set. Any tips you have for people? I've heard the make sure it has impact. You have an aha moment in there. Anything else we should be trying to do?
Yeah, I mean the framework of my videos is well published on my LinkedIn profile, so people can go and check those different things out. But a
Nice.
couple different tips would be to start with a long form content pillar like what we're doing right now, so that you don't have to think about what to write about every time. I just write about what I've already talked about, right? So figure out a
Totally.
long form content pillar, whether you're interviewing your customers or interviewing thought leaders in your market, or just talking to other people or jamming with other experts inside of your company, whatever you want to do. But start with a long form content pillar,
Yep.
and then you can break that down into micro content for LinkedIn. And then inside of the videos, having captions really matters. So go to rev.com, $1 a minute for captions, get those, put them in the video, because most people a lot of people scrolling through are just going to read the words, not actually listen to the audio.
What was that
So
site
that
again?
matters. It's called rev.com. There are plenty of transcription type
Oh yeah, yeah.
services. There's a couple free ones that are automated. So do that. I put a headline at the top, which kind of like isn't I call it a thumb stopper, which is like a couple of different words that would help people understand whether or not the video is right for them. And so bold headline at the top of the video, which helps people stop and decide whether or not to consume it. And then lastly is to format it in square. So a lot of companies will format it landscape because that is the YouTube version. But because you're on a mobile device that's vertical, the more vertical real estate you can take up, the better. And so I
Mm.
would recommend formatting in square versus landscape.
These are like wizard tips. It's like Gandalf is teaching me how to cast magic spells. It's pretty cool.
And then the key one I touched on a little bit before is the words that you write matter deeply to whether or not the post is successful. And so like I've done tests where I post a video and say, you should check out this video, it's cool, versus writing what I think about the content inside of the video.
Really?
And the differences are massive,
Huh.
because a lot of people won't even watch the video. They'll just read what you post. And so actually being very thoughtful about what you write inside the post is a critical factor to success in LinkedIn organic.
Got it. So don't just pull like an Ali G, be like, yo, check out this post. It's amazing. Smiley face, emoticon. Or if you're like,
Yeah,
hey, this post is about this. This is what it's almost like, but
you,
do you repeat yourself or do you just
I mean,
mix?
sometimes I can either paraphrase or take a key idea out of the video and then kind of like
Okay.
expand on it inside the post. But a lot of companies will be like, we had this cool event and we did this, and go and check out the content and move them off the platform. And what I found over
Mm,
time is that a lot of people don't want to leave. And so by like companies will, instead of actually saying something inside of the post, they'll just like have just like a little description, which is why no one's actually going off to your site to read it. Like I do
right.
all the work inside of the platform. If someone wants to go and listen to the podcast, I'll drop the link in the podcast
Yeah.
in the comments. But I don't expect that a lot of people will do that,
Mm.
right? And so
So,
I try and
yeah.
get everything done, can communicate the entire message on the platform,
On
which
the
is different,
platform. Right.
which is
You're right. Everyone's
different than
trying to get
our
you to the next platform. Go listen to this
trying to
podcast.
move
But
you off,
yeah.
subscribe to our newsletter, come and read this blog on my site. One, the LinkedIn algorithm deprioritizes links that are embedded in posts. They want people to stay on the platform, so you might as well work within their guidelines. And then secondarily, like this organic strategy on LinkedIn is not the same strategy that we use on Facebook paid. And so like there's so many different nuances on what channel, whether you're paying for it or it's organic, and all of these different nuances that most people are not inside doing the work enough to even understand.
Yeah. Like surface level. They're just kind of taking
Yeah,
a
I mean
pot shot at it.
they'll read a blog on neilpatel.com about how
Ah.
you should do this, and they'll just read a headline and make an assumption across the entire board that that's how you should do it, and it's just not true. Like in anything, I have my own unique way of doing it, but you can too if you go in, and because you'll go in and you'll spend the 2 hours a day and you'll figure it out, and you'll realize when someone comments here what the best thing to do after that comment is, and you'll figure out your formula
Yeah.
that you think is best. um, because over time, like the guidance that someone gives you is only going to get you so far.
Yeah.
It's like if you were playing basketball, like at some point you actually have to go and shoot the shot. And so, yeah, I just would push people. I guess I've been talking about this more. The first step, if you want to do this stuff, is to commit to it, because it's hard
Mm.
and it takes time. And so if you're not committed to it, you're going to post for 4 days. You're not going to see the likes or the engagement or the leads that you want, and you're going to give up. And then you're going to go back to doing the same different marketing activities that you were doing before that were ineffective. And so,
And
like,
lame. How long do you have to commit?
I mean, I think it's just full commitment. So like
Full life?
it's a commitment until you have data that says otherwise.
Okay.
And so like on August 9th, 2019, I decided committed to LinkedIn. I don't spend a lot of time on Instagram anymore. We do something, we're expanding channels now, but like at that time it was 100% on LinkedIn every day,
Okay.
posting, engaging 2 to 3 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it made a real impact in my business and in my life. But most companies will say we should do LinkedIn, but it'll become 3% of their attention and mix. And if you're going to give something 3%, you're probably going to get 3% of the results that you could, probably less than that actually, because I feel like once you start to get it going, I'm seeing exponential increases in engagement and reach and inbound qualified leads and all these different things, because I continue to execute consistently for a sustained period of time.
Right. Wow. I'm sold, man. I'm sold. LinkedIn needs to hire you. Be like their evangelist. As you're describing it, I'm pulling up your page. It's kind of surreal because you're describing it, and I'm seeing your page super, on LinkedIn, super well done. Activity. There's a post. Most SaaS companies we audit are wasting at least 30% of their AdWords budget, and they don't even know it. And then click more, and then there's a whole thing where you've written it, and then there's a video. And I noticed it has like the talking bars. It's got a picture of you. It's not video, but instead you've got, like you described, you've got the words, you've got the transcript behind there, so people can see that without turning it on. That way, don't wake somebody up next to them in bed.
Yeah, I mean there are golden moments on every platform, paid and organic. And so I've only had this feeling twice. I know that other people have seen it on different platforms. In 2015, I recognized that Facebook paid was the best opportunity in B2B companies. And I
Okay.
continue to run that play because it really is the best play, because the platform's so inexpensive, so effective,
For
so
B2B.
sophisticated, and a lot of B2B companies aren't doing it, and has so much scale. And so like I think that, and I built my initial part of my career on really figuring out how to run Facebook ads for B2B companies. And we still do it today because no one else has bought into it, and the CPMs are $4. It's 20 times less expensive than LinkedIn. And I think that it's more effective relative, irregardless of the cost. Like I do think it's just more effective if the price was the same. And so you have that piece. And then again, in August of 2019, when I recognized that LinkedIn organic was a big opportunity and I pushed my chips into that. There are other people in 2012 that saw that Instagram was an opportunity and now have 1 million followers and have built a completely different life for themselves.
Right.
Depends what you like. So the opportunities are there, and then you need to figure out how you use that to accomplish whatever you want. And so if you're in a
Right.
corporate company, it might be to help, get more sales so that you can get a promotion. For other people, like I'll give you an example about how it doesn't take that long. We've been doing this live Q&A session for the past 11 weeks since COVID happened. So I just hit up my
Mhm.
friend Gaetano Donardi, and now we do a live Q&A on Tuesday evenings at 7:30 p.m. We've been doing it for 11 weeks. There's a person that has been coming every week 5 minutes early to the Zoom while I'm still getting set up, every single week for the past 11 weeks.
Wow.
On week one, at the end, we challenge people to go and start a podcast. He
Wow.
he took that, started a podcast. By week 2, he was on episode 5. By week 3, he was on episode 10. And now fast forward to week 11, and he just went from his job at a director, like a kind of like a stuck in his job as a director of marketing, and just got a VP level job in 11 weeks just by being active on LinkedIn and publishing content and
Thought
demonstrating that they
leadership.
can do it.
Yeah.
So like that was 11 weeks. That's a success story of someone that just saw the opportunity, followed some guidance, and did the work. And so like I love celebrating those things. That's a lot of the reason why I post on LinkedIn, like half because I like to be an expert in the things that I tell my clients to do. So I want to be able to know the platform better than anyone.
Right.
That's one. Two, it generates business opportunities. And three, I get messages from people all the time that say, I just got this promotion. I owe it to you. And I say back, like, you owe it to yourself. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I gave you the information, but everyone has access to the information
True.
that I just sent, and no one uses it. You did.
Right.
Congratulations, right?
So true. So true. So it's like knowledge is power, sort of, but you got to use it. And so many people can have this knowledge. Your point, read a blog post, listen to this podcast, but then take action. And that particular person listened to you in that Q&A, did the challenges. Sometimes there's like like worksheets, or there's like challenges at the end of each chapter in books. And some people are like, yeah, cool, whatever. But the people that actually take the time to take that extra effort, they're the ones that end up being above the crowd. It's
Yeah,
crazy. It's crazy.
it's awesome.
Hey, it makes sense as you're describing the transitions and things that are hot, and Facebook still being that place for the ad space, LinkedIn more organic, because it makes sense, because I remember testing LinkedIn and being like, maybe it's good for a second, but organic LinkedIn, I totally see that. And I see you going all in on the videos, makes total sense. Great commitment to that. What's like just a transition? I want to give away all the
Yeah,
secrets, but like
I'll give
on
them
the
away.
Facebook side, when you think about Facebook in the ad side, how do you approach it, and how is it different from all the other ad platforms?
Yeah. So the core difference in the way that I use ad platforms versus 99.9% of people, especially in B2B, is that I use ads to distribute content, not to drive direct response conversions. And so I know that if I am able to deliver information about this clinical trial for our product that we're selling into hospitals, and I can get the medical director at that company to read it, because I know what the cost per click is, and I know I can watch time on page, and I see the average time on page, so I know people are consuming it. And if I'm paying $1 to have the medical director at whatever hospital read that thing, then that is worth the $1 to me.
Yeah.
But other people, because they don't think about it in that granularity, I think about it as guaranteed communication. Like, I know that I'm going to be able to deliver this message to you. Whether or not you click on it is predicated on how good I am at delivering the content inside the platform. However, most companies will only run these types of ads as a way to get leads. And when they do that, they're going to end up getting leads for whatever price, 40, on Facebook, sometimes like $5 and then on LinkedIn, it can be up to $500. So there's a big range. The problem is that, because especially in complex B2B, if you're not selling like a self-service or freemium SaaS tool where
Yeah.
someone can get into the product straight away, if it's a complex B2B sale, it's just not aligned with how people buy things. And that shows, and that presents itself in how those people move through a sales funnel. Because I've done
What
the
do you mean by
tests.
that?
So I know that when I'm on Facebook or other buyers are on Facebook, they are not looking to get a demo of my product.
Right. Right
Right.
now.
But
Yeah.
we can show them a video
Yeah.
and then say, hey, come get a demo. And a lot of people might think, okay, this video is interesting. The challenge is that they don't have a sense of the cost. They don't have a sense of the implementation time. They don't have a sense of whether they think it looks cool, but they don't have a sense of whether or not it solves their pain, whether or not it integrates with their other tools, whether or not their team's going to buy in, all these different things. And so you run that thing, and your conversion rate from that all to actually create an opportunity is going to be low.
Yeah.
It's going to, like, the amount of people that your sales team's going to call and they're going to say, oh, I don't even remember filling out that form, I'm not interested, is high, like very high, more than 50%. And then the people that do get through are going to close to revenue at a super low rate, because it's not aligned with how people buy things. And so instead of running these ads and collecting leads at $100 that are going to, one, not make it to an opportunity, and two, not close to revenue, and just end up wasting either my SDR or my account executive's time.
It's a waste.
So if you look at that all in cost, one, it's just the cost of the wasted ad spend to hit a metric that doesn't actually lead to the metric that you want, which is revenue. And then two, all of the wasted time of your people following up, which is a hidden cost. It's a hidden cost of the wasted time. It's a lost opportunity cost of what else they could be doing with that time.
Either way, the costs are mounting. It's almost like I don't need. Please don't tell me any more
Yeah.
costs.
So the
Yeah.
third one is another intangible, which is the sales and marketing alignment challenges that get created by doing that.
Oh
So you're
yeah.
driving 1,000 leads, and the sales team, after following up with 30 of them, knows they're all garbage.
Yeah.
And then so they stop following up, and they're like, these things stink, send us better leads. And then you and then you don't know how, because
Yeah.
you've been trained to do it that way. And so
Yeah.
it creates so many different problems that starts with the idea that you need to drive volume of leads, which is how we started this episode.
Which is how we started. And to your point on the alignment, when you do actually send them the quality leads that are mixed into that mush or on some other lead source, they're not following up with that either, because they're already mad at you
Precisely.
from this
They're
bullshit
not looking for
Facebook
the
campaign.
needle in the haystack for the one good lead out of the 1,000 that you're sending them. It's just
Right.
not, that's not how it's going to work.
Right.
And so, for all of those different reasons, what I've figured out is by just giving people information at a high frequency in a way that they want to digest it, and then allowing them to decide, I'm ready to start my sales process. Which, if anyone's listening to this thing, like they're like, oh, that makes sense. Like, when I'm ready to buy something, I know where to go and get that company.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I know how to go to their website and call them, or fill out a form for get a demo, or talk on their web chat.
Yeah.
Like, just think about anyone listening to this. There's really no exceptions. This is a human buying behavior shift that's happened over the past 10 years, is that's how people want to buy things.
Yeah.
They want to talk to your sales rep when they want to talk to the sales rep,
Right.
not when your sales rep wants to talk to them. And so, I just, over time, have learned to have empathy for buyers and try and be as much aligned in my marketing with their buying process as I can.
Right. This reminds me of radio ads and how useless they can be trying to force people into buying a certain way. Hey, here's this brand, call this number. And I'm like, I'm freaking driving. I'm not going to call you. But to your point, I know how to find you. So maybe save it instead of repeating the phone number 3 times for people. And other than that, the old person sitting at home with a notepad, no one else has paper. I'm not going to like drive and write it down. I know I can go Google it later. You're right. I don't get the good tracking. I don't get the good metrics, but
People do that in pursuit of the measurement to prove that it did something. And when you make people jump through hoops in order to prove that your marketing did something, you actually prevent them from doing whatever you wanted them to do.
Right.
And so, like, it's a really obvious example. Anyone in B2B will understand this. Is like, when in 2015, when I built a demand gen function inside of a $30 million company from the ground up, I read the blogs from HubSpot that told us that we should have a long form PDF that we gate behind a form, that then people can come in and either through paid social or organic come and download the thing. And then after they download it, we'll send it to them in an automated email through HubSpot. And then they'll go into a workflow where they'll get 5 emails over the next 35 days about different types of things. And then you just look at it, and a couple of things happened. One, very few of those people actually ended up becoming customers over in a 6-month window. The second one is that in paid social, you're using an ad with a direct lead gen form. So, hey, here's this PDF, download it. So they convert, so you get the metric of a lead.
The metric.
However, when you go and send the auto reply email with the content, the click-through rate was less than 10%. And so you're paying less than 10% of the people actually even had the opportunity to get into the PDF. And then if you look at the content engagement from there, it was pretty low. And so what we're doing is we're creating so much friction for someone to actually read the content, which is the whole point. And so over time, I've figured out that the goal is to think about, if someone only read one sentence out of your thing, what would you want their key takeaway to be? And so I keep them very tight. So all of the stuff that we run on paid social with a like landing page or traffic type of goal is that they need to be able to understand whatever message within 3 minutes. And so typically it's a short form, like 4 to 5 paragraph blog that's reporting on this study, or a quasi type of press release. Like, we take a press release, we write it more casually, we put it on the blog instead of a press release about the new feature that came out. or the new integration partner that we have, and we target people that use the technology that we just integrated with,
Yeah.
or we have a case study about a customer in the manufacturing industry that just used this and got this result, and then we target our buyers in the manufacturing industry with the case study. Like that's how we run the plays.
And I'm glad you brought up the whole HubSpot gated content thing. Do I get the sense that you're not putting a form up when you're driving people from Facebook? Like they're clicking through, you just want them to read this thing. Is that what's
That's the
going on?
goal. Yeah, and so a lot of people get tripped up on that because in order to give them the content in the way that they want, I forego the ability to measure it aside from the cost per click and the time on page.
Yeah.
And that's okay with me because I've done it at 15 companies in a row and I know what the end result is, which is more pipeline and revenue. And so, and I know that there's more pipeline and revenue, one, because I measure it, but two, it just makes sense. It just
Yeah.
makes sense that if you can educate people at scale about what your product does and who, how to use it and who's had success with it and what big customers you have and, how it's differentiated and what pain points you solve. Like, if you can do all that stuff, but do it in a way that's educational and not salesy, which is
Yeah.
another place. If people try and do this, they're going to end up going into full on sales mode, trying to
Yeah.
convince someone from never heard of you before to wanting to buy your $50,000 software tool in one blog post. And that's not going to work either.
No. No. And yeah, to be fair, if you've got some kind of tracking tool behind the scenes on that page, they eventually come back later on. You'll maybe have them cookied. So maybe you get that some of those metrics later on. But that
Unfortunately, it doesn't usually happen like that.
no,
So
it doesn't.
there's a
You just
couple
write
things.
it off.
One, 99% of or more of the traffic generated through these ads is going to be an anonymous mobile device visits. And
Got
very
it.
few people are going to come back on the mobile device and convert. They're going to convert
Right.
on a desktop computer. The second thing is
Right.
in a complex B2B sale, the person that's reading the blog might not be the person that converts on the form.
Right.
What we found is like we were at one company, we were trying to sell to the director of respiratory therapy, director
Okay.
of respiratory medicine, but we would be advertising to all of the respiratory therapists that work underneath them. Because what I've learned is that everyone wants to sell to the CFO or the CIO, but the
Mm,
people underneath them actually tell them what decision to make. And
true.
so I've started purely, not purely, but like focused a lot more on advertising to the influencers in the organization that then can help the person that quote unquote makes the decision, help them make that decision or at least get it on their radar.
Yeah. So you make this move in your company because Chris told you to, and then how how do you not get fired because you don't have the metrics that you used to have, kind of thing? Like give it time and then things are getting better and that's how you know it's working? Or cause you just said I did this 15 companies and it's working. How does everyone else use this and how do they justify, and we're always trying to justify our jobs and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first step, which is the one that I took, is to use data to demonstrate to executives that what we're doing right now isn't effective.
Okay.
And so it's not like so just go in and show them the last campaign you did with the ebook that you ran $100,000 in media against on LinkedIn and got 2,000 leads. Let's pretend $500 a lead, and then look at what happened to those 1,000 leads.
Yeah.
How much did you spend? $100,000. How many people made it into opportunities? Where are they in the pipeline? How much pipeline was created? How much revenue was created? And
Right.
look at that in whatever your sales cycle is. Look at that at 2x your sales cycle length. Give it like a fair amount. So if you're in a 90-day sales cycle, give that 6 months to play out, and then just be transparent about it. Okay, so we did this execution,
Yeah.
and we created. We spent $100,000. We created 3 opportunities. We won one deal for $6,000, but
Oh
we spent
shit.
$100,000 and all these different things happened. And so like, I'd like to run an experiment of maybe a better way to do it because it doesn't feel to me like this is working. And you can do that with any execution. Trade show boosts is the first one that I attacked in 2015 because there was so much money being wasted there.
Oh,
So
tell me
instead
about
of
it. Those things are like castles. They're expensive, right?
going to 12 trade shows a year and spending on average $25,000 a month on those booths, and then all the travel cost of your reps and your marketing team and the distraction that it creates in planning them.
Yeah.
What if you just went to 2?
Okay.
And then if you just went, instead of going to 12 trade shows, you just went to 2 depending on how much money you're spending on them, you've probably opened up somewhere between $500,000 and $2 million in budget to use somewhere else.
Right.
And
Right.
so, and it's not to say that you can't go to the event. Like, I'm actually pro going to the conferences where your buyers or thought leaders or partners are. I'm just against spending $50,000 on a booth that is not needed in order to have all of the success of the event. You just need to be there and have a
Right.
plan and know the right people and know how to interact and know how to create content and know who's in your pipeline and how you need to meet with them and all those different things. You don't need a booth. People are not
Yeah.
showing up at your booth waiting, like hoping that they can find something new to buy things. Like, they're going to look on the internet. And so,
They might
uh,
want your stuffed unicorn. Like I know sometimes I've been to like Dreamforce and I'll even just tell people like, look, can I have this unicorn? It's for my kids back home. Like, scan me, but I'm literally gonna unsubscribe,
mhm,
Or they call, hey, you want to
yep,
buy this 50 grand software? No, I just really wanted that really cool stuffed animal,
yep. And so the
Oh,
first step is just demonstrating that what's happening today is ineffective and try and quantify how much money is being wasted. And maybe in there, you're going to find one thing that's working.
yeah.
Like, maybe AdWords is working. And
Okay.
then maybe you should try and initially take some of the budget from trade shows and try and make AdWords work even better to drive more revenue. Like, maybe that's
Right.
probably a common thing some people would find. And and then from there, it's using that data to align the executive team on what actually matters. And what actually matters is revenue, not the leading metrics that they think lead to revenue, because
Right.
it doesn't map that way. Like, if you had 10 good leads, you'll probably get more revenue than 1,000 ebook downloads. And so, like, a lot of people don't think about it that way. And so it's
Yeah.
like, instead of going for, like, right now we created 36,000 MQLs last year and we closed 30 deals. Whatever that win rate percentage is incredibly low, like less than 0.1%. So, like, there's the wasted sales team's time. Like, what if we set a goal of trying, for all the leads we generated, trying to win them at 10%? And then once we get to a level where we have an effective marketing engine that's driving actual revenue results, then we can figure out how to scale from there.
Yeah.
But why are we scaling a channel like this? This happens in a sales channel. This happens in a marketing engine. Why are we scaling a channel that's already so inefficient? Because as you scale it, it's going to get more inefficient. And
True.
so,
Yeah. Oh, this works 1% of the time. Well, let's do it 1,000 times more, and maybe it'll
yeah.
be probably a less percentage if you do the
Mm-hmm.
math after that. Yeah. Wow. Well, and it's it's not easy because I think a lot of the times we kind of rely on measurement to help us feel more comfortable, like we're making a difference and trying to calculate ROI. And I mean, that thing you said earlier just still sticks in my mind, that when you put the measurement first and it is actually preventing you from doing the thing that you're measuring in the first place, then it's a problem.
Because
Crazy.
you spend so much time talking about the phone number that you don't actually communicate whatever you were trying to accomplish,
100%.
right? And
Right.
so, like, yeah,
Well, we
just
only have
very
15 seconds because
fascinating
the
to
other
me.
15 seconds is our phone number and our web address and really
Hmm.
.com http // really, you're gonna say the whole thing? Like,
Hmm.
no, they'll find you. They'll find your brand. They'll Google you on their phone if they want to. Crazy. I could see how you could have a lot of fun because just thinking about it, there's so much bad marketing out there. There's so many opportunities to do it right and to actually see a big improvement in how it's done.
It's just, we need to change what we're measuring and why. And so,
Okay.
like, in 2015, when I was running Facebook ads targeted at respiratory therapists,
Yep.
I knew they were working because there was 500 respiratory therapists commenting on the ad, asking questions, saying
Wow.
other things, like tagging their boss, asking someone at a different hospital what they did. That's how I knew it was working. I didn't need a lead number. I knew that people were engaged, and I knew that when they're engaged, they're learning and they're sharing, and it's creating word of mouth and internal
Yeah.
discussions about whether or not they should continue to do it the way that they're doing or look at a different option.
Yeah.
It's We need to look at the effectiveness of channels based on the effective communication inside of the channel. Like, when it comes down to it, all the digital infrastructure does is allow us to scale our ability to communicate.
Yeah.
And so if we're trying to scale our ability to communicate, like I just want to be able to have your attention and for you to take away whatever I want to communicate to you. And then after that, it's up to you about what you want to do. So
Last question on
yeah,
that.
let's do it.
We're kind of jaded on advertisements, right? Especially in marketing. You know, there's probably going to be something if you click on that. How does your ad? Do you say like no forms, or like do you say like this content's for you? We're not going to like stick you to it. We're not going to make you fill out your mother's maiden name to get this information. How do you compete, at least, and not look like everyone else is just trying to suck you in and get your information and cold call you the next day?
Because I know that people are in their Facebook newsfeed looking for either information about their friends or looking to learn something or see the news. And so I position the content as if it was news.
News.
And I use non-branded images, like what you would, if you think about this as a marketer, think about it like you're a New York Times reporter for your industry or for your company. And then say, so the example would be, the New York Mets have success with blah 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 software tool, and then the picture would be of a baseball field, not of a branded image of your company.
Yeah.
And then someone clicks through and they read the article, and it looks like just if they clicked off onto the New York Times, except without all the garbage banner ads, and then they get to consume the message. And then what happens after that is 99% of people don't click get a demo, don't click any of those things. They go back to whatever else they
You
were
go
doing.
back. Yeah.
However, you've accomplished the goal that you set.
Right.
You wanted someone to read that and understand it and have a takeaway about it, an impression on your company.
Mm,
And if you did that, then you've been successful.
right. Wow. Good
Yeah.
stuff, man. There's so many cool ideas and different things. It's like, I don't know if people listening are like me, but I'm like, okay, I'm going all in on LinkedIn organic, and this Facebook thing sounds fun, done right. And you know what? I think we all kind of prefer the non grimy marketing, right? The marketing that is just the way we'd want to receive it. Do unto others, right? I'd
Mm-hmm.
like to click on that and see that, and that even sounds fun to make. It's so much better. It feels better to do that too. You're just trying
Yeah.
to help people out.
Yeah. Another example for people, a lot of people will run, whether it's like co-marketing or anything, on a webinar. And a really interesting example on this one is like, we've been doing this live Q&A now for 11 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
And consistently, there's probably somewhere between 20 and 40 people that show up every week. And one week I decided to do a poll, because I think this will really resonate with people, is what I asked those people: how many more of the webinars would you have come to if I had a sales rep call you after the first one? Like, most people wouldn't come to the second one after they got a sales call after they attended the first webinar. And so I think a lot of people should think about that, is that you want people in your content. And by doing some of the sales activities in
Mm,
such a short-term fashion, you actually push people away.
yeah. Hmm. I do a lot of webinars myself, and I'm trying to think like, I love giving people content, but you don't want to then feed them right into the flames. Like, oh, and you know what? Sales doesn't like him either. How many
Most
times have
companies
I
do.
heard sales be like, I don't want to talk to this person just because they went to a webinar? That doesn't qualify them at all. Like, it doesn't
Exactly.
mean anything. And you go back to the same problem you just mentioned earlier, where now they're not going to trust you because you sent a bunch of people over. Any tips on webinars, these Q&As, any approaches you have to that? How do you make those just like your Facebook ads, where they're just so selfless?
I mean, the objective, I guess, is to understand your audience so deeply and continuously provide value that they want to show up 11 weeks in a row. Like, if you use that as your KPI of repeat visitors or something like that, then you know that the content's working at some level. The second piece that's critical right now, so many people are doing virtual events. Do not use a deck and just have a monotone presentation across it. The key of having someone show up live is interaction, having audience participation. And so we set it up as a Zoom meeting, not a Zoom webinar, where everyone's on video and we can unmute people and they can ask their question and we answer it. And the last key thing is that the objective of the webinar is to create content. So by leveraging the audience to ask questions, we continuously have a new stream of content, and then the content gets produced and distributed across different social channels, and we get our leads over there,
Yeah.
not at the people on the webinar. Same thing goes for a live event. I've been to so many SaaS live events, micro event, invite you to a nice steakhouse with 20 people and do a lunch and learn about ABM or something. And you go there and you
We've
have a
all
steak.
been there, man. Yeah.
You go there and you have a steak, and then you got an account executive hounding you on the phone for it, and it just, I would prefer, like, and I've been doing these tests and I know that they work better, is that I would have the 20 people in the lunch and learn. I would bring someone else in. I would forget the presentation deck. I would talk about a topic, and then I would use the audience to ask questions similar to what we do on a webinar. The audience can ask questions. We film it, and then we use the actual video content, chop it up and distribute that online. And again, that we get the revenue business impact on the amplification of the content after the event, not at the people at the event.
Not the people at the event.
Yes.
Such a game changer. I mean, how many times are we looking at, it's like people are drooling over the event attendees, like let's get them, boys. Like I feel like it's the Lion King, and all these hyenas are like circling around your webinar attendees, and to your point, it's not them, it's everyone else, but they're going to help you create that fresh content. They're going to ask the questions that you didn't put in your content yet. They're the content. It's awesome.
Exactly.
Man, who are you? Who are you? You know so many things. You have so many ideas. You studied all these different concepts. Can you take us back, like little Chris days? What was it like growing up as you? What did you want to be when you were growing up? Like, who are you, man?
Yeah, man. So I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire. Spent a couple years working on an apple farm.
Where
Was
in
a
New
bit
Hampshire?
outside the Nashua area, small
Okay,
town,
right. Yeah,
Hollis,
that's where I'm
Brookline.
at. I'm in Nashua. Yeah.
Yeah, and was a big athlete in high school, and so played baseball and basketball, and then went on to play college baseball for a couple years. And at the beginning of college, I thought I was going to study pharmacy and maybe like think about how to research making pharmaceuticals or something like that.
Really?
And then got into college, took organic or chemistry one, and was like, this probably isn't for me. And so I
Nah.
pivoted and went to biomedical and electrical engineering, which is like, I wanted to at that point design medical devices. And then I got out of college and started doing that. And what I found, and this is kind of like really interesting as I reflect on it, is that I was much more interested in how the technology solved someone's problem
Yeah.
than the actual creation of the technology. And so
Interesting.
I was in engineering, but quickly moved to product management, upstream product management. So I would go out, talk to customers, understand their feedback, run beta rollouts, get their feedback, spec it back to engineering, decide what the product should look like, what the interface should do, all those different,
Right.
like how are we differentiated across the market? What are the key, how are we going to position the product, different things like that. And then over time, kind of like was even more interested in figuring out, okay, so if we have the product, how do we get people now to understand what it can do for them? And
Right.
that became like a big jump in empathy and psychology, is how are you going to communicate with people in a way to, like, again, it's just like at scale, educate people on what are you doing today, which is most likely the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
and how are you going to, and why should you, out of all the things that you could be doing with your time, why is it the right idea to move from where you are to this exact product, and what's the outcome? And so a lot of companies in their marketing will spend all of their time and all of their marketing energy, for the most part, focused on the 2% of people that are actively buying. And so that would be like Google AdWords, paid search, retargeting, G2 optimization or whatever, referral aggregator, things like that. Intent, like intent data is a big term, but somebody's got to have intent first, and how are you going to get them into intent? So instead of focusing on the 2%, we do focus on the 2% that are actively buying. We call it capturing existing demand.
Okay.
However, all the upside is figuring out how to move the 98% of people that are not actively
Right.
buying into a buying cycle. And how you do that is by awareness-based, educational-based content campaigns that help people understand why they should do something differently than how they're doing it today.
Mm.
And when you educate the 98%, you actually create a brand perception where you are the front leader when they
Mm.
decide to buy. And so
Wow.
there's a lot. I mean, we see a lot of people come through. Like the difference is when you're playing in the 2% of people that are actively buying, you're a vendor in like the RFP process. They're like, we're looking at
Yeah.
3 vendors, we're going through this, and
Yeah.
when you win the 98%, they're just coming and buying from you.
Right.
Like
That's a
the
good
people
point,
that
man. Cart before the horse. Like the demand is cool and knowing that they're buying, but yeah, you're at baseball tryouts, man. You're just one of the numbers. You got to get out in front of it.
Yeah, and so like the people that come inbound to me on LinkedIn are not going out and looking for 6 other marketing agencies. They want to work with me. That's called
Right.
brand. And so
Right.
like and I before I did this for my company, I did it for several businesses under their corporate logo, and I'm just now moving it to my own company, and what I've chosen to do is under my name.
Right.
um, but it works just the same for the $100 million software company, the $1 billion medical device company, the $2 million early stage fintech startup. It can work across the board. It's just brand.
Interesting. It all comes down to that brand out in front of everything. Huh. Huh. Did you ever get to the point where you thought you might go like pro baseball?
No, I recognized senior year of high school that probably wasn't the path I was going to take, and kind of my like really started to focus a lot more on my education after that. And then I had a career-ending injury my sophomore year of
Oh,
college,
gotcha.
and kind of used it as a opportunity more than anything. And so got really focused on, added a double major, got really focused on my studies,
No kidding.
learned a
Okay.
lot. Yeah, took some different leadership opportunities, took some internships where I could learn, started a couple side businesses. And so like all those different things are all components of
Got it.
who I am today. Yeah.
So that you could have been spending that time, you know, if you hadn't got injured, you'd still be probably spending so much time in the athletic side. But you leveraged it instead of being like, oh, poor me. You're like, okay, well, I got a bunch of time now because I don't have to go to practice and all of the trips and the games. And so so you started companies and all you just kind of like just started doing more.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we will never know what the outcome is, but like I got a lot out of the athletics too. Hard work,
Oh, for sure.
teamwork,
Yeah.
going up against adversity, all these different things that I think also make me who I am today. And so just
Yeah.
kind of like looking at what is the situation today and what can I make out of it.
Yeah. Did you have to do organic chemistry?
No, I did just basic chemistry 1 and 2, and then got out of there.
Okay, cool. I was gonna say it murders college
It
students,
wasn't
I
it
hear.
wasn't in the, it wasn't in the cards for me.
Well, I got a hypothetical for you. If you
Mhm.
can, COVID and all, we're all kind of stuck in our places, but I may have a time machine up in Nashua, New Hampshire. So let's say everything's better, back to normal or whatnot, new normal, whatever it is. You come up to Nashua, get some apples from the orchard, and you use my time machine. You go back in time and you talk to yourself. Talk to yourself either, you just graduated school or sometime in school or what, some point around that early in your life. What would you say to yourself? Any advice you'd give yourself? Do more of this, do less of that.
Focus more on the people that you work with.
Huh.
At the beginning of my career, I was, and this is not a regret, it's just a reflection, is
Yeah,
that
for sure.
I was very focused on building my skills, um, and not enough focused on the organizational change component. Like I'm an innovator. Like I really like to go in and look at how
Yeah.
things are doing and figure out what are the most important problems in a business and solve them. And it just so happens that the most important problem in most businesses today is marketing. And so, um, and so like being able to figure out how to communicate in the way that I do now, which helps people understand where they are today and where they could go,
Yeah.
and being able to have a lot more empathy for how they feel and how resistant they are going to be to change and how that's going to affect them is something, if I was 18, I would probably spend more time on early in my career.
Wow. Yeah, the people you bump into, and it ends up being a smaller world sometimes. And I think on LinkedIn, when I was looking at you earlier, we're connected to 251 people, this mutual connections, right? It just is such a small world in the marketing world, both in the Boston area, so that helps. But
Hmm.
like, you're right, man. The people are important just as much as the skills.
Yeah.
Craziness.
And it really matters. Like, I think for people that are younger, like it's, it's almost like not who you know, but one, who knows you, and two, what you can do for them. And so, like, when I was 23, I did not have a lot to offer to the CMO, but
Right.
now I do. And so, like, it's not just having the relationships for the sake of having them. Like, in order to really have a place where people know about you and want to work with you and all these different things, you have to have something to offer that is unique and brings them value.
Right.
Yeah.
Man. Do you have time for anything else outside of work and all these amazing content campaigns? What do you do for fun? Do you still play ball?
Don't play. I don't play basketball. I exercise a lot, so I'm a big runner and use that as like my 6 a.m. kind of like thing to
Yeah.
get my day set. So I do that 7 days a week. We'll occasionally take off a Saturday, but for the most part, it's 7 days a week.
How
Because it just
far?
makes. It depends. So usually, I mean, some days it's like a workout in 2 miles. Some days it's like a little workout in 7 miles, and so it varies. I don't do a
Mix
ton
it
of
up.
long distance anymore. And so yeah, the exercise mainly because I love how it makes me feel, and so
Yeah.
I feel like I'm so much more creative, resistant to like stressors and different things like that. That I get a ton of benefit from, and also just getting your day started and having a routine, I think, is super important for productivity. And so we'll exercise a lot. Love going to the beach and just like kind of checking out for a couple hours. So we'll do that. Spend some time with friends. Some of my friends have kids now, which is cool to see them grow up. And so um, do some hiking in the White Mountains in New Hampshire from time to time.
Yeah.
Do a lot of travel for work when travel, when it's safe to travel and everything like that. So inside of the travel, like we'll be able to do other things or see other places, which is nice. But like for the most part, like I don't feel like work is work. And so like I enjoy doing
Totally.
it, like interact, like coming on this podcast and talking to you, like it feels like a vacation. Like I like doing it. You know what I mean? It
Totally.
doesn't feel like we're doing work. And so I think like finding whatever that is, where like on a Saturday morning, like you have a couple different options, but like you kind of want to work
Yeah.
is a good place to be. It's just finding something that you really like.
Yeah, man. I sometimes joke that I feel like the truancy officer, the police are going to come and be like, you should need to be at school, hating what you're doing. You're having too much fun. It's like we had a day off from school and you're just we're having a great time. When you can find that zone, it's like magic
Hmm.
for sure. Man, this has been crazy, dude. This is fun.
Yeah, it's been a
Like I can tell
blast.
you're having fun. There's so many things you talk about. I mean, I probably could talk to you for several hours. Like there's just so many
Yeah,
cool stories and
we can come back and get super tactical in like one channel or
yeah,
certain different executions. So yeah, happy to do that.
yeah, we'll totally do that. Maybe a little bit later on too, where we get out of this COVID thing and we're like, hey, how's it going? What's changed? That kind of stuff. And
Yeah. I mean, one interesting point, as I'll kind of go off on a tangent here, is a lot of people have asked me what about our marketing strategy has changed
oh yeah,
since COVID happened. And a lot of companies have had to make huge adjustments. 50% of their budget's allocated to trade shows and in-person events. And they have these field marketing people, and what are they going to do with them? And they're not
right.
producing content. And so they've had to make and their outbound connect rates went from 14% to 3%. So their
Ooh,
outbound sales channel is going down because people aren't in the office and they don't have direct dials and blah 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 blah. And
yeah,
so like if that's the situation, like they have to change a lot.
yeah,
But and and I and from my side, like besides not being able to do the live events once a month, like our strategy has not changed at all. And the whole point of the live event is just to create content that we can use on social anyway. So like
Right?
I'm just sub in a weekly webinar and we get the same thing, but we get 4x more content. And so like our strategy hasn't changed that much. And so I see this period of time as not a change, a creator of change, but an accelerator of change that should have happened already. And
That's
so
a
like
really good point.
a lot of companies have been holding on to the ways that they used to do things, and because the economy has been so good, they've been able to kind of ride this wave. And now we see a downturn, and the company that was growing, the market that was growing at 30%, and they were growing at 30% with the rate of the market, now the market slows down and they realize that like maybe what they're doing wasn't that good, and they have to take a serious look at their personnel and their strategy and the tactics inside of the strategy. And I think that the companies that are thoughtful and adjust will reflect on this in a couple of years and say that it was a good thing for
Yeah.
the business. Obviously not a good thing for the world, but for the
Yeah,
business.
not people for sure. But as you framed it that way, around, I was thinking about the 90s, right? This is kind of forcing some companies to stop living in the 90s. It's not the 90s anymore. We're closer to 2050, right? It's like, so yeah, it's kind of forcing us to, okay, if you can't do all those in-person events, what are you going to do? And it sounds like you're the answer. So really, people need to reach out to you if they haven't.
Yeah, I mean, think about the medical device companies that get most of their revenue through field salespeople that visit hospitals. The odds of those people
Yeah.
being able to get into hospitals anymore is very low.
Yeah.
Or the accessibility is going to go down a lot. It's going to be a lot harder to access that stuff. And so how are you have to basically change your entire go-to-market strategy.
Yeah.
And like, should medical device companies have been doing inside sales with on-site implementation a long time ago, more similar to what a SaaS model would do? Yes, but they haven't needed to adapt to that.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a very different change that's going to come out of this, and companies are going to need to figure out how to adjust.
Man, there's so many adjustments going on. It's wild. It's wild. But it sounds like this content is the answer. And this style, this approach, your formula for doing it. It's cool, man. Hey, how can people connect with you? What are some good URLs, links, social platforms, all that stuff?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me, Chris Walker, and then we have our podcast called the State of Demand Gen Podcast. We're publishing 3 to 5 episodes a week. They're all somewhere between 30 and 90 minutes, like a lot of deep tactical knowledge, and that's accessible on all different platforms.
Are those like interviews? Or is that like you sharing what you just did today, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So when I'm a guest on podcast, when we do live events, we'll rip the audio from a fireside chat with somebody and like the sales expert or something like that. We'll rip the audio for that. Our audio from our Demand Gen Live Q&A sessions will go on there.
Smart.
Our interviews that I'll do with industry experts will go on there. And so like all that different stuff gets mashed up into the podcast. And we publish, like I said, 3 to 5 times a week, and Apple and Spotify are the main channels that we're using right now.
Right.
So that's good. And then the company is refinelabs.com.
Refinelabs.com. Sounds like there's a lot of refining that needs to happen, but now is a great time to do it. Man, this has been fun. Thanks for hanging. Thanks for chilling with me on a Thursday morning.
Yeah, this was great. Got through a couple coffees, which was nice.
I forgot to ask, what was that coffee you were drinking? Because I saw it was this cool little bottle, it was like a witch doctor bottle.
It's called the Starbucks Cold Brew.
It's just a Starbucks cold brew?
Yep.
Well, those things are powerful, man. How many did you have?
Yeah, man, I'm feeling good. I think I've had 3 so far today. But
they're like stronger than regular coffee, right?
I like it that way.
You've had like 3?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So it's been awesome to be here. Would love to be back sometime. Hope that the people listening to this found like 1 or 2 little nuggets that they can go and use, whether that's LinkedIn content or changing up their webinar strategy to not pass those people to sales, or to think about trying to go into Facebook Ads Manager and just the exercise of seeing how many people with the job titles of the people that you're going after are available on Facebook. That was really eye-opening to me. It would take you 5 minutes and a couple Google searches to do that.
Yeah.
So I hope people took something valuable away from this.
I know I did. I literally have 2 pages of notes. I've ran out of space. I'm writing in like the margins and stuff and drawing pictures. So my advice to those people listening, if you did learn something, because I know you did, then share this with other people. Be a thought leader yourself. And in just like what Chris is talking about, don't just blast it out. Don't just put a link. Write something on LinkedIn. Like write your takeaways on there. Post a picture, screenshot, or something, as opposed to link to the episode if you want, but put your thoughts on there and tag us, and we're happy to hop on there and comment too. Chris, it's been awesome, man. Thanks again. I can't wait to chat with you again on this.
Yeah, I can't wait, man. Thank you.
All right, cheers. For everyone else listening, this has been the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will catch you all next time. All right, a big thank you to today's sponsors. Cheshire Impact, helping marketers and sales win, maximizing the use of Pardot and Salesforce. And a big thank you to Qualified.com, the #1 live chat and chat bot platform for Salesforce and Pardot. Remember the giveaway. If you have Salesforce Pardot and you want a free copy of my book, Marketing Automation Unleashed, then you go over to Qualified.com, engage in a chat, do a demo, and tell them that Casey sent you, and that book will be on its way to your door. All right. We'll see you all in the next one.